You wake up feeling behind, as if there's some secret clock you're late to meet, as if you're the only one still lost. But here's the quiet truth. No one really knows what they're doing. Some just hide it better. Others talk louder to drown out their fear. But confusion is not failure. It's a companion on the path of becoming. You don't have to know where you're going to be worthy of rest, love, or belonging. The world has sold you urgency like oxygen, hustle like a virtue, clarity like a prize. But real growth rarely feels clear. It feels foggy, tender, disorienting, like wandering in a forest with no map. And sometimes the most honest thing you can say is, I don't know who I'm becoming. I don't know what the next step is. I just know I'm tired of pretending I do. Let that be enough for now. You're not a project to complete. You're a garden in process. Some seeds take longer to sprout. Some roots grow deeper before they rise. There is no shame in slow becoming. There is no gold medal for arriving first. There is only your path and the quiet courage it takes to stay on it. Others may sprint ahead, but what if their pace isn't yours? What if running drains your soul dry? What if walking gently is your truth? Life isn't a race. It's a rhythm. You get to find your own. Not one designed by timelines or algorithms, but one born of breath and honesty. You're not lost. You're just not rushing. And that confuses a world addicted to speed. But confusion is a doorway, space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's not the end. It's the tender middle, where softness and not knowing are allowed. You don't need a 5-year plan to be valid. You don't need to monetize your every passion. You don't need to explain yourself to those sprinting past. Your worth isn't measured in milestones or clarity, or how many steps you've checked off today. It's measured in your presence, in the courage it takes to pause, to not have all the answers, to sit in the quiet space where identity hasn't hardened yet. That's where real becoming begins, not in perfection, but in the honest mess of in-between. The world may not celebrate your confusion, but I will, because it means you're alive. It means you're not pretending anymore. It means you're listening. And underneath the confusion, something is growing. Something softer than ambition. Something holy. You are allowed to not know. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to pause without explanation. Some of the wisest people I know are still figuring it out, still adjusting course, still unlearning what they were taught. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not falling behind. You are exactly where you are, and that's enough. What if you let go of the race? What if you stop sprinting toward a version of life that isn't yours? What if rest became a way of honoring your soul? Confusion became a kind of compass, one that doesn't point north but inward, to the you that's been waiting, not for clarity, but for kindness. You are allowed to move slowly. You are allowed to not move at all. Becoming isn't about pace. It's about depth. And you, dear soul, are becoming something deep, something real, something that can't be rushed. Let that be your quiet victory today. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stay soft. You wake up feeling behind, as if there's some secret clock you're late to meet, as if you're the only one still lost. But here's the quiet truth. No one really knows what they're doing. Some just hide it better. Others talk louder to drown out their fear. But confusion is not failure. It's a companion on the path of becoming. You don't have to know where you're going to be worthy of rest, love, or belonging. The world has sold you urgency like oxygen, hustle like a virtue, clarity like a prize. But real growth rarely feels clear. It feels foggy, tender, disorienting, like wandering in a forest with no map. And sometimes the most honest thing you can say is, I don't know who I'm becoming. I don't know what the next step is. I just know I'm tired of pretending I do. Let that be enough for now. You're not a project to complete. You're a garden in process. Some seeds take longer to sprout. Some roots grow deeper before they rise. There is no shame in slow becoming. There is no gold medal for arriving first. There is only your path and the quiet courage it takes to stay on it. Others may sprint ahead, but what if their pace isn't yours? What if running drains your soul dry? What if walking gently is your truth? Life isn't a race. It's a rhythm. You get to find your own. Not one designed by timelines or algorithms, but one born of breath and honesty. You're not lost. You're just not rushing. And that confuses a world addicted to speed. But confusion is a doorway, space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's not the end. It's the tender middle, where softness and not knowing are allowed. You don't need a 5-year plan to be valid. You don't need to monetize your every passion. You don't need to explain yourself to those sprinting past. Your worth isn't measured in milestones or clarity, or how many steps you've checked off today. It's measured in your presence, in the courage it takes to pause, to not have all the answers, to sit in the quiet space where identity hasn't hardened yet. That's where real becoming begins, not in perfection, but in the honest mess of in-between. The world may not celebrate your confusion, but I will, because it means you're alive. It means you're not pretending anymore. It means you're listening. And underneath the confusion, something is growing. Something softer than ambition. Something holy. You are allowed to not know. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to pause without explanation. Some of the wisest people I know are still figuring it out, still adjusting course, still unlearning what they were taught. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not falling behind. You are exactly where you are, and that's enough. What if you let go of the race? What if you stop sprinting toward a version of life that isn't yours? What if rest became a way of honoring your soul? Confusion became a kind of compass, one that doesn't point north but inward, to the you that's been waiting, not for clarity, but for kindness. You are allowed to move slowly. You are allowed to not move at all. Becoming isn't about pace. It's about depth. And you, dear soul, are becoming something deep, something real, something that can't be rushed. Let that be your quiet victory today. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stay soft. Maybe you've spent years trying to become someone, chasing the image, the plan, the polished version of yourself. But along the way, you forgot how to be, how to sit with yourself when there's no script, how to breathe without a goal. You were taught that stillness is weakness, that uncertainty is failure, that if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. But who created this map? And why does everyone pretend to follow it when they're just as lost? You're not the only one who doesn't have answers. Most people are improvising, smiling through confusion, performing clarity to protect themselves. But deep down, they're also asking the same questions. Is this it? Why does success still feel hollow? Why do I feel like I'm running in circles? The truth is, we've glorified direction. We've turned life into a straight line. But real life is circular. It loops, it backtracks, it pauses without warning. And that's not a mistake. It's rhythm. It's nature's way of teaching us patience, unlearning the myth that we must always be certain. The moon doesn't apologize for its phases. Trees don't rush to bloom before winter ends. So why should you rush your own becoming? You are not late. You're not early. You're exactly where your soul needs to be. Even if it doesn't make sense yet, confusion is not a flaw. It's a sign that you're growing beyond your old answers. And growing hurts sometimes, especially when you're shedding identities that once kept you safe. You're allowed to miss who you used to be, even if you know you can't return to them. Healing isn't linear, and neither is clarity. Sometimes understanding comes after the storm, not during it. So don't punish yourself for being in the middle. The middle is sacred. It's where most of life happens, where your values get tested, where your fears rise and fall, where you meet the raw, unpolished version of yourself and learn to love them anyway. You don't need to chase certainty to be at peace. You can choose peace even while doubting, even while aching, even while standing in the dark, unsure of where to go. Peace isn't the absence of confusion. It's the presence of self-compassion. The quiet voice inside that says, I'm here, even now. That voice is your anchor. Not your titles, not your resume, not your plans, but your inner presence. The part of you that exists beyond identity, beyond productivity, beyond the roles you play. You don't have to impress yourself every day. Some days, it's enough to simply breathe, to feel your heartbeat and know you're still here. To take one small step or none at all. That's not failure. That's life. Life in its real, unfiltered form. Messy, tender, beautiful in its uncertainty. The world may not reward you for slowing down, but your soul will. Your nervous system will. Your relationships will. You don't need to have it all figured out to be worthy of love. You don't need a plan to be valid. You don't need certainty to belong. You just need to be honest with yourself. To stop pretending you're okay when you're not. To stop performing confidence when you feel lost. You're not alone in that feeling. You're just human. And being human means not knowing sometimes. It means fumbling. It means beginning again and again. Not because you failed, but because life is constantly unfolding. So are you. Slowly, quietly, in your own beautiful way, without needing to rush. You were never meant to run yourself into the ground just to prove you're alive. You were never meant to become a checklist. Life is not a series of boxes to tick. It's a quiet unfolding. A rhythm you learn by listening inward, not rushing outward. Somewhere along the way, you were told to be faster, smarter, more ambitious, but they forgot to tell you to be gentle, to be soft with your own heart. You can't measure a soul's worth by how much it achieves, or how quickly it recovers. Some wounds take longer because they go deeper. Some answers take time because they ask more of you. And that's okay. Slowness isn't laziness, it's wisdom. The wisdom to not rush what still needs to bloom. The wisdom to pause and ask, do I actually want this? You might find that some dreams you've been chasing aren't even yours, that they were handed down by fear or expectation. You don't need to live someone else's life. You don't need to carry the pressure of being ahead. Ahead of whom? According to what timeline? There is no universal clock ticking above us. It's only your own heartbeat. And even that beats with grace, not urgency. You are allowed to rest in the middle of becoming, to breathe even when you're unsure, to slow down without guilt. There is no prize for burning out. There is no trophy for perfect plans. Your life is not a project to perfect. It's a mystery to experience. It's okay to not know your 5-year plan. It's okay to only know how you feel today. Because today is where real life is happening. Not in the imagined future, not in the curated past, but in this breath, this moment of awareness, this ache or smile you carry quietly. You don't need more pressure. You need more presence. Not to fix everything, but to feel it. To stand inside your uncertainty with love, not judgment. To witness yourself unfolding without forcing it. Your timing is sacred, even if no one else understands it. Even if it looks different than what the world celebrates. We live in a culture that glorifies certainty. But what if uncertainty is its own kind of wisdom? What if not knowing is the beginning of real freedom? You can let go of needing to have it all together. You can allow yourself to fall apart and rebuild slowly. You are not lost. You are not failing. You are evolving, quietly, subtly, in ways you can't always explain. Not all progress looks like movement. Sometimes it's the courage to pause, to ask deeper questions, to let go of things that no longer feel true. Letting go is hard, even when you know it's right. But every time you do, you make room for something new. You create space. And in that space, you begin to hear yourself again. Not the voice of fear or comparison, but the quiet voice that says, you're okay, even here. That voice is your guide. It's not loud. It doesn't demand. It invites. It invites you to trust your own rhythm. To stop measuring your life by milestones and start measuring it by meaning. What matters to you now? What feels true, even if it's small? There's no shame in simplicity, in choosing a slower path, in living softly in a world that tells you to be hard. You don't need to catch up. You don't need to explain why you're taking your time. You're allowed to take the scenic route, to wander, to meander, to circle back when needed. Because life isn't a sprint, it's a spiral. And every time you come back to a place, you meet it with new eyes, with more compassion, with more wisdom. You are not behind. You are on your way, in your own beautiful, unhurried way. That is more than enough. Some people arrive at clarity quickly. Others drift for years before landing. But both are valid ways of living. There is no single right path, only the one that whispers to you gently. You may not even notice when it begins. Healing often hides in ordinary days, in slow mornings, in unread books, quiet tears no one sees. Sometimes doing nothing is the bravest act. Because stillness reveals what noise tries to cover. It asks you to listen, not just react. and that can feel terrifying. You may want to rush back into busyness to prove you're okay. But what if okay doesn't mean productive? What if okay simply means honest? With how tired you are, with how lost you feel, with how much you crave rest. Rest isn't retreat, it's restoration. It's the sacred pause between who you were and who you're becoming. You don't need to apologize for slowing down. You don't owe anyone a timeline. This life is yours to shape, not to rush. But yes, it's hard not to compare. Everyone seems to be sprinting ahead, finishing degrees, buying houses, starting families, and you're still figuring things out. That can feel shameful, but it's not. It's human. Life doesn't move in straight lines. It curves, it loops back, it delays, not to punish, but to prepare. There are seasons of blooming and seasons of breaking. Neither defines you. You are not your timeline. You are your tenderness, your resilience, your quiet refusal to give up. That's what matters, not how fast you got there, but how gently you held yourself along the way. It's okay to not know your purpose. Sometimes your only job is to stay open to what moves you, open to what breaks you, and still lets the light in. Some clarity only comes after the fog. You're not late. You're just living. And living is not a checklist. It's not a highlight reel. It's messy. It's soft. It's full of uncertainty. That's what makes it real. It can begin again anytime. You don't need a plan to be worthy. You just need a little breath, a little grace, and the courage to keep showing up, even when you're not sure where you're headed. Especially then. Yes. There is wisdom in uncertainty, in saying, I don't know. I'm listening. That is enough. You don't need to be certain to be sincere. You don't need to be ahead to be awake. You just need to be present. In this moment. In this version of you, the one that's still unfolding, still healing, still learning how to be, you can let go of urgency. God, it never belonged to you anyway. The pressure to figure it all out, it's just noise. Your soul doesn't move on schedules. It moves with silence, with slowness, with steady becoming. Some days you'll feel behind. That's normal. But behind what? The race isn't real. Timeline isn't fixed. Your life is not late. Your path is your own. Meandering is allowed. Confusion is part of it. You are not broken. You're becoming. There's a kind of wisdom that lives in wandering. It doesn't scream or demand answers. It waits. It whispers through detours. Through late-night questions you can't solve. Through the ache of not knowing. But maybe not knowing is the invitation. To slow down. To stop pretending. To be honest about where you are, not where you should be. We're taught that life is a straight road, with milestones, checkboxes, trophies, but it's more like a forest path, overgrown, winding, sometimes disappearing altogether, and yet every step still counts. Even the ones that feel like going in circles, even the ones that feel like falling. Growth is not always forward. Sometimes it's inward. Sometimes it's invisible. Sometimes it's just breathing through the pain. You're not failing when you're still. You're not broken when you're confused. You're just human. And being human is not a competition. There is no prize for arriving first. There is no shame in arriving late. Maybe the point isn't to arrive at all, but to walk with presence, to notice the light through the leaves, to hear your own heart even when it trembles. The urgency you feel, it didn't come from within, it was taught. Pressed into you by systems that measure worth by speed. But you are not a machine, you are a soul in progress. Souls don't rush, they unfold, they spiral, they pause. There's sacredness in the pause, in stopping long enough to feel again. To remember who you are beneath the noise. You were never meant to be figured out. You were meant to be felt, to be lived, to be slowly understood over time. There's no shame in needing time. There's no shame in not having the answer. Answers can wait. Your gentleness cannot. Take the pressure off your shoulders. Take the timeline off your chest. Replace it with breath, with softness, moments that don't need to be earned. Life is not a ladder to climb. It's a river to float. And even the still pools are part of the journey. Some seasons are about rest. Others about rediscovery. Not all movement is visible. You may be shifting in ways no one sees. Don't let their pace define your peace. They are walking their path. You are walking yours. You don't need to match their rhythm. You only need to trust your own. It's okay to say, I don't know what I'm doing. That honesty is powerful. It's the beginning of self-trust. You don't have to act like you have it all together. You don't need a 5-year plan. You just need presence. One breath at a time, one gentle step forward, even if it's uncertain, especially if it's uncertain. That's where life reveals itself.
Not in certainty,
but in vulnerability. Not in control, but in surrender. Let go of the finish line. Let go of the race. There is no final version of you. Just layers waiting to be uncovered. It's truths waiting to be honored. Life is not about being ready. It's about being real. And realness doesn't come with a schedule. You're allowed to change directions. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to rest. The world will try to rush you, but your soul is allowed to take its time. You don't need to have it all figured out. You only need to be here. There's a strange freedom in saying, I don't know. It breaks the illusion that everyone else does. It loosens the grip of pretending. Most people are just improvising anyway. They carry their own silent doubts. Their highlight reels don't show the wandering, but we all wander. We all fall behind sometimes. We all question if we're doing this life thing right, and that's okay. You're not lost. You're just becoming. Becoming doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like stopping. Sometimes it looks like questioning everything, or letting go of what once made sense. What if confusion isn't a problem to solve, but a season to honor? Quiet teacher guiding you inward? In the silence, things settle. In the stillness, the truth whispers. You begin to hear what matters to you, not what was handed down, not what was expected, but what actually fits your soul. Your timeline is your own. You're not late. You're not missing out. You're just pacing yourself differently, and that's more than allowed. It's essential. The more you rush, the less you feel. The more you perform, the more distant you become from your own heart. But the heart cannot be scheduled. Healing cannot be forced. It arrives when safety does, and safety begins with permission. Permission to pause, permission to not know, permission to simply be. There's nothing lazy about rest. There's nothing wrong with uncertainty. There's no shame in being a beginner at your own life. Even the wisest souls get lost sometimes. That's how they grow. That's how they soften. You don't have to map everything out. You don't have to chase clarity. Clarity will come when it's ready. It doesn't arrive on command. It grows in the soil of patience. And patience is an act of self-respect. Your worth is not measured by your speed. It's not measured by your certainty. It's felt in your presence, in your gentleness with yourself, in your quiet refusal to abandon who you are. Every detour has its purpose. Every delay is part of the unfolding. You're not stuck, you're steeping. Like tea in water, your truth is drawing out slowly. You are allowed to steep. You are allowed to simmer before you shine. Life isn't waiting for you to catch up. It's moving with you, not against you. Even when it feels still. Even when nothing makes sense. You are in motion, just beneath the surface. One day, what felt foggy will feel clear. One day, what felt like a mess will feel like a mosaic. Not because you forced it, but because you stayed. Stayed soft, stayed curious, stayed open. Let that be your strength. Let gentleness be your rebellion. In a world that rushes, dare to slow down. In a world that demands answers, dare to ask better questions. Not where should I be, but what is true for me right now? Not how fast can I get there, but what do I need today? Don't need to hustle for your worth. You don't need to fix your whole life in one breath. You only need to be real. It's enough. That's always been enough. So take the scenic route. Let the road surprise you. Stop and admire the strange beauty of being unfinished. No one is ahead. No one is behind. We're just walking each other home. Through the confusion, through the quiet miracles, through the mornings that ask nothing of us but to breathe. There is no deadline for becoming. There is only now. And now is worthy of your attention. Let go of the race. Let go of the map. You're allowed to take your time, because your life isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a story to live. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.